Yeah,
This is the way I hugged you when I came in today.
Did you hug me?
Oh, really? I didn't hug
No,
you.
you didn't hug me. This particular lamba is not going to
It's not
work.
going to work.
But how are you? It's
I'm
good to
very
see
fine,
you.
thank you. I'm
How's it
fine.
been?
Okay.
I know your story is going to be very different from that of Norma because, so I'm going to ask you how you're coping with the whole petrol situation and everything that's going on.
I filled my tank yesterday.
Yeah, you are very...
That's why I picked on that story today.
So we'll definitely get to it, right? Okay, so just before then, if you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, it's at Official Upgrade TV. Do well to click subscribe button, like and share. And tonight we're going to be having a conversation with partners. Enough is enough, and we'll have a quick chat with Michael Showme, a social entrepreneur and a founder of the Rising Star Africa, to discuss the hashtag One Person Champion of Inclusion. If we do have Michael right now, it would be great for us to have that conversation. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, good evening.
All right, so a quick one. I'd like you to run us through what, this champion and inclusion has been about.
Okay, so I am a social entrepreneur. I run a nonprofit called Raising Star Africa, and we help children with disabilities to become self-reliant so that they can contribute their own quota to society. So for us, it's just all about changing the narrative about disability. It's counter narrative of the stereotype that we have about disability in Nigeria or in Africa at large. So what we do is basically provide access to education, skill empowerment, community learning, awareness, and advocacy. So the end goal is that they become self-reliant and then become contributors to the society, unlike the normal stigma or the stereotype that persons with disability are receivers, they are beggars. So we are trying to change the narrative by empowering each child or each person with disability to give back to their society. Yeah.
All right, just before, I hand you over to Norma or Franca, how can we create more opportunities that will, enable young people with disability in Nigeria to achieve financial independence, looking at the current situation that, we are faced with as a country?
Okay, so how you can help for financial independence is first of all by making everything accessible for persons with disability, because one of the major criteria for persons with disability is accessibility. That is very, very important, because if anything is not accessible, then we are not going anywhere. We can't go out. So I put out a poll last week about on Twitter and saying that persons with disability share your plight with me at this current economic season that we are. And most of them were saying bad business, you can't go out, transportation. So those are the issue for persons with disability. In terms of transportation, in terms of their business, it's not moving. Why? Because if a normal person can be struggling in this kind of economy, then what do you expect for a person with disability? So the way to help them is providing accessibility and also supporting them in terms of motivation. It is necessary. We all need motivation at this part. I need motivation, honestly. Okay. So imagine so many people with disability out there. We need to motivate them. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Michael. So what I want to ask is, how do you pick the people who come to you? As in, how do you get the people you're helping? Is there a way to reach you? How well do people know that there's something like this, at least in Nigeria?
Okay, I think that is two questions in one. How do you get the people you are helping? And
yes.
The way to reach me.
Yes.
So how we get the people? It's not that we know where they stay. So what we do is that we look for them, we search for them.
Okay.
Community. So we have different community stakeholders that we speak to, that we engage about persons with disabilities in their community. So with time, we started in 2020, and then it was difficult for the first year or for the first 2 years. But with time, especially through our association with schools, with local government, we started getting more of these beneficiaries, and then it becomes very easy. So we are in contact with the parents, with the local government, with the school community. So we have access to them. So it's not like before that we struggle to have access to them. So now we have access to them, and it is easier to help them in terms of if there's any needs intervention that needs to be done. We always reach out to them. And how people can reach me, I'm on every social media as Michael Show Me or Michael Thompson Show Me. On LinkedIn, I'm Michael Show Me. And on Instagram, Michael Thompson Show Me.
Okay.
All right, so just quick one. We have Norma who's going to be asking you the next question.
All right. It's good to have you, Michael. I wanted to ask how we can actually normalize disability, because it almost feels like once you're disabled, you're incapable of achieving much in life. But we've seen situations where even in advanced countries where we've had presidents becoming who are disabled people. So it's not, so how do we begin to normalize disability in our society, and how can the government actually do much more? Again, I'll use countries outside of Africa. We have people, I mean, there are sort of things to facilitate helping aid. We have ramps in buildings. In fact, there are regulations to ensure that these things are put in place. So how can we also get the government to become accountable and begin to pay attention to the strength that disability can offer?
Okay, so I think the first question is how can we, sorry, I forgot, I'm so sorry.
I said, how can we normalize?
Okay, yeah. So how can we normalize disability? So this is part of what we do in terms of awareness. Awareness cannot be overemphasized. So we need to make people, we need to create awareness as much as possible. So one thing that needs to change is for you to see that disability is a social identity. It's not me actually, but it's my social identity. I'm a person with disability. That is because I cannot walk. I'm using crutches. So you describe me as a person with disability. So you can see it's a social identity. It is not me. So what I used to tell people is that see the person before you see the disability. So when you see the person, you kind of look at the abilities of the person before even seeing that disability. So that's change. It reorientates your mind and see the abilities and the person instead of the disability. Even when you are going to see the disability, it won't change the opinion that you have about that person.
All right, Michael, we have to go now for the want of time. Thank you so much. I'm really sorry, but we have to go. We'll definitely have this conversation some other time. That's how much that we can take. Thank you so much, Michael Show Me, for being part of the show tonight. We do appreciate you. All right, that's it. And our topic tonight will focus on the forthcoming elections in Edo State. Just barely 2 weeks to the elections. That will be happening in no time. And we hope that we know that Nigerians are, watching out, fingers are all crossed, and we're anticipating what will be, the outcome of that elections. Now, but just before we go, here's what we found in today's quote. Voting is a right best exercised by people who have taken time to learn about the issues. And that's by Tony Snow. So I think that, Frank and I actually had this conversation prior to this time. And the question was, the people that were voting, I hope that we get to a point where Nigerians actually understand the issues before, they go out to vote. And this is very, very sensitive because if you look at, the behavior around voting and our elections, it begs for a lot of questions, especially when you look at the outcome. At the end of the day, you and I can literally not say this is what it should be, but then again, you're just very shocked about the outcome and the decisions and the behavior of the people when it has to do with elections. So, it keeps me wondering.
So I think that's because the majority of the people who we actually depend on their votes do not know what's happening.
That's so dicey.
But that's what it, I keep saying the same thing. They do not know what's happening. So the more we should pay more attention to enlighten these people, so.
Anyways, we just have to run off, but just before then, know that we will open our phone lines and would love to hear from you what you have to say. But first, let's go on that break to see what we found in the news today. We'll be right back. Please stay with us. You're still watching Ways, and we're just going to quickly look at what's happening today in terms of international holidays. September the 16th, Nigeria observed National Identity Day, a day dedicated to promoting and celebrating the nation's diverse identity and fostering a sense of national unity. This day emphasizes the importance of recognizing and respecting Nigeria's rich cultural, ethnic, and regional, you want to say, diversity while working towards strengthening national cohesion and identity. Now, this day was established to raise awareness about the importance of national identification, development, and social cohesion. I'm sure that everyone would literally have something to say at this point in time. We really don't have time, so we'll just move away from that so we can find out. No, you can't say that. We'll hold that thought. But let's quickly talk about what we found in the news. Maybe I'll start off with Norma. Norma, what did you find for us in the news today? Just quickly.
All right, so today Tinubu is in Borno State to evaluate the flood impacts. And the story has it from the Punch that he has arrived at Maiduguri, which is the capital of Borno State, to commiserate with the government and the people of the state following the recent flood disaster. And President has assured displaced persons at the camp that his government will provide support. In his words, he said, "I want to assure you that we will support you, we will help you, God bless you." That's straight to the point, I believe. And following him, or those that accompanied him, were the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, the Minister of Agriculture, Abubakar Yari, and the Group Managing Director of Nigeria National NNPC, Melek Yari, as well. The IG of Police Kayode also met up with him at Borno State. And apparently over 23,000 people had been displaced due to this disaster. I'm just hoping that relief will come as quickly as possible because we've seen these situations come up times without number. I'm not sure how prepared we are as a nation when it comes to natural disasters. This is not, there's a lot of questions on my mind concerning this, but we hope that the Borno State government has the support that they need at this time to be able to support those that have been displaced, which are over 20,000 people, households. Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I observe, Norma, about, the response of government to all of this is that it looks as though every other time there's an issue, there's always a response to rice. So we have seen that the government has responded with trucks of rice, and that got a lot of Nigerians talking because, again, we say that is rice a solution to every problem that we face, and rice is not so healthy for all of us. Right. So, I mean, that's on a lighter note, but it's quite worrisome that the first response that you get from government in the case of flooding is that there's bags of rice that's been donated to the people.
Sad.
Back to rice.
I was going to say that when there's rice, there have to be salt and you have to mix stew and something like that. But, over to you, Franca, what did you find for us today? That's why you're taking a deep breath. It must be a lot.
Dangote denies selling fuel to NNPC at $8.98 per litre. So there's so many news about this particular headline. And here, the Dangote Group has dismissed recent claim attributed to the Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited spokesman, who said they bought fuel at 8.98 naira. And then my issue with this is you come out to say, oh, this claim is not true, but you haven't said anything. You bought, okay, so here he hasn't even said how much they bought the fuel for or how much he supplied it for. You just come in to say, oh, you're claiming that, the clarification comes after widespread report that NNPC has purchased fuel from Dangote at 8.98. Yet, you haven't said anything. So
I'm laughing because it brings me back to I think you were going to say that, but I'm going to let it out because yesterday I saw a comment on one of those blogs, and I'm very skeptical not to comment on those blogs.
So please, Mercy, let me say this myself, please. Let me go because I want to say this. That's why you want to say it yourself. And in the comments, there was someone, a Mercy I know, said that their super story. You called it. Was that Mercy you?
I don't know. You find out. You tell us.
Mercy, please, I need you to explain why you call this super story.
I mean, it was just a regular commentator and commenting on a blog. So at that time, I wasn't in this capacity. I wasn't acting as a journalist or a broadcast journalist. It was just me, you know. I just saw that, and then to me, I said, "Oh wow, I love how the Dangote responds, because 2 seconds they don't respond to this super story."
But they didn't say anything.
Exactly, the fact that they are responding to
But they
say
agree that they
anything.
have supplied.
Yeah. So the point is, my concern is the speed and the pace. And trust me, I think we should give it to whoever is running the PR for them.
Okay.
Whether they said anything actually to address the issue, but my concern is the fact that if you notice, there's always that timeliness and speed to respond, and that's what public relations is about. You know what?
But people already. But just the same way, they should respond because people are asking the cost.
Well, that's also another thing that they probably might have to respond to. But I'm just saying that in the light and in
you shouldn't give them credit for responding to this.
I'm just saying that
they don't, because people have been asking the price. They haven't responded. They
will eventually. I'm not a spokesperson. Please don't push me to that point because it looks as though you're making me right. All right. So quickly, for me, it's just a very regular thing that I'm sure that we've all heard. And this won't happen. Don't forget that today is the holiday. The Muslim communities are celebrating the birth of the Prophet. And so Governor Bello Muhammad has called on Muslims to offer special prayers for Nigerians' economic recovery during the commemoration of the Prophet's birth in Bauchi. And he's saying, hey, pray for Nigeria, acknowledging the current economic hardship. He assured the public that the efforts are being made to alleviate its impact and call for prayers for divine intervention as Muslims actually mark this day by reciting the poems in honor of the Prophet. He was actually represented by the deputy governor, and this also caused a lot of reaction. I mean, I would have said a lot, but if you have time, you can actually go search that. You need to see the comments. And it brings us back to the conversation that we have every other time, that we have relegated the things that we can actually solve. You handed that over to the place of prayers. So what we can actually solve, we refuse to solve them. The problems that we have caused, the things that we have neglected, the things that are in our capacity to address, we just neglect it. And then we pray to the Prophet, we pray to Jesus Christ. And then we constantly pray.
They've given it back to the masses to go and do the work. And that's what we know how to do, pray. They are not asking us to protest. They're saying we should pray.
All right, so we quickly take a break now, and when we return, we will be going straight to the crux of our conversation tonight. Please stay with us.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges.
With the growing youth population and very little engagement.
That is a ticking time bomb.
We're blessed people with a diverse culture who have a lot to say.
And yes, we are talking.
It is important we drive conversations that informs, inspires, and influences thoughts and actions.
If we say there is beauty in diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture.
We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation.
As we are the hope for the future, yesterday's conversation shaped today.
What are you saying to shape your tomorrow?
We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
Vote buying is a significant issue in the Nigerian politics. It has threatened the very foundation of our democracy. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, that's the NBS, in 2023, elections saw a 22% indices of vote buying. This is a concerning increase from the 17% that was reported in the 2019 general elections, and it suggests a troubling escalation in the practice. Now, with barely 2 weeks to go before the Edo State election, this growing concern about the integrity of the electoral process. We also have reports that have surfaced about widespread vote buying in the state, and this is actually casting a shadow over the promise of free and fair elections in a democratic dispensation. Now, just to cap things up, the DIG, that's Frank Mba, while was addressing this issue, talking about the, the role of the police and the responsibility of the police to all of this. He stated, and I quote, "In an economy where you have illiteracy, hunger, and poverty, politicians will naturally weaponize these deficiencies. We will have to do what we can do as law enforcement agents." That sounds like a hopeless situation. It's as though, hey, what can we do? Fingers are, we're just throwing our hands up there. But so there are several questions that are begging for answers, and it's quite unfortunate, especially after the 2023 elections. We hope that, things would have been really better and that, people will act differently. The behavior of voters would actually be different. So we're asking, are we likely to see an increase in vote buying in the upcoming elections? And is there a viable solution to addressing this issue, because it looks like a recurring, situation. It looks as though it has come to stay with us. And how can we address all of these undying social and economic factors that are fueling vote buying, just like, you have Frank Mba making that statement. Now, to make sense of all of this, we have a senior legal practitioner who will be joining us tonight. He is, his accolades a lot. He's a graduate from the University of Lagos. He's a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators of the United Kingdom, Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrator. The list is almost endless tonight. Please, thank you so much for joining us. We have Elvis Asia. I hope I got the pronunciation of your name correctly.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you. You got it right.
All right.
Thank you for having me on the program.
All right, Elvis, thank you so much for joining us. And Franca is here. Norma is also here with us via Zoom. And tonight we'll just, be talking about the elections just barely 2 weeks before the people of Edo State would actually decide. Now, there's been a lot of, reports. If you go on the internet, you can see widespread reports of, vote buying. First off, I'd like to ask you, how does this make you feel in 2024?
Quite frankly, it's very sad, that our democratic experience has been marred by all sorts of electoral practices, vote buying being a major concern, because the most important thing in a democratic setting, in a proper democracy, is that the people are able to express themselves and choose whoever they wish should be their leader. But in a situation like in Nigeria, where, those who have the financial wherewithal, those who have stolen so much from the purse of the nation, or the ones that can buy votes, it's quite sad. And the problem is made worse by the increasing poverty in the country, unemployment and illiteracy, and a lack of proper sensitization of people as to the essence and the need for a democratic system that elects people based on the will of the people. It's quite sad, and you cannot. And as like we have seen since 1999, we have not been able to fix any problem in this country because of this issue. Because the people who are running the affairs of state are not worried that the people will vote them out. They are very confident that they have the financial muscle to continue to subvert, the will of the people, and that is why we are where we are as a nation.
Also, so Franca's here, and I'm sure she literally has questions to ask you.
Yeah, so as much as I want to say, oh, this is what it is, the last election, they said even with the votes, so I'm trying to get somewhere, even with the votes, everybody was like, for Lagos State, people came out to vote, but they were not, so this is not even about buying of votes anymore. This is about actually counting the votes. Were they counted properly?
No, but that's a different conversation. We're just sticking with the issue of vote buying, and we're also sticking with the fact that there are laws that have actually been put in place. It should be, if you look at the Electoral Act, it should be criminal.
Yeah, it should be criminal.
You understand?
Yeah.
For those who are indulging in whether you're buying or you're selling. So we're just looking at it, and we're just looking at the fact that what exactly would be the integrity. Because if you look at the elections, one would think that every other time there should be an improvement. You want to be a better person in a new year, there should be an improvement. And the Edo State elections and other elections that we're anticipating in the country should be appointed to what we should expect in 2027.
Yeah,
so here we are again, and there seem to be reports of widespread, violence at a point, but mostly the issue of, vote buying.
Yeah, so my point is, that would happen because nobody has been brought to the books. Nobody has been, I haven't seen any election where they said, oh, these people were brought out to say, you guys did this, you guys did that. So who are the people in charge of these things and what are they doing? Nobody has been accountable for this. So now are we saying, so I want to understand what you as the practitioners in Edo State, what have you guys put in place? What are you guys doing? It's not about discussing this. What has been done? And if you guys have done anything, who is not making it who is not making it possible for you, whatever you guys are doing, to showcase itself?
Well, the electoral process is the umpire in the electoral process in Nigeria is the Independent National Electoral Commission. And by the Electoral Act, like you rightly mentioned, a lot of these malpractices, vote buying, they are criminal offenses. It's a criminal offense, for example, for you to sell your card, give it to somebody else to use in exchange for money. It's an offense for you to be present during voting to induce people with funds. During campaigns, it's also an offense for you to induce people with funds. So the laws are there, but the challenge we have always had is the enforcement of the law. And, in order to enforce the law, you need, of course, a strong policing system. You need a strong judiciary. And so it's really not just about the people, because you need to be able to enforce the laws. And over the years, we have failed very woefully in that regard. The police have shown partisanship in the way and manner electoral malpractices are, managed. We have seen instances where, depending on who is, dictating the pace of the system. And so that's also a major challenge. And then our courts have also not been very, with due respect, good enough in trying to ensure that the electoral process is sanitized. Some of the cases that have gone to court, which will ordinarily stem or stop electoral malpractices, including vote buying. We have seen, cases decided on technicalities rather than on the substance and the issues of law. So that's why we are where we are. And then the courts are also overwhelmed with so many cases. So even when you file cases or charge people to court, it takes forever for justice to be done. And that's why a lot of people have called in the past for electoral offenses tribunal or special court that will be dedicated to dealing with issues of vote buying. But unfortunately, we have not been able to achieve that. I've mentioned the issue of enforcement through the police, through the court, and then the political class. They are very comfortable with this system, which is why they are the ones, again, that should activate the system and ensure that there's the right political will for enforcing the laws. All of these are not going on because the political system are beneficiaries of vote buying. They are beneficiaries of the system the way it is, which is why, for example, in most states, those states is not an exception. You find out that the incumbents or the people who have had access to the purse of the state are the ones who deploy, funds to buy votes. And so, the people cannot really do much unless there's that political will to fix the system. You also need, for example, to sensitize the people. There's a high need for a lot of people just collect 5,000, 10,000. They don't understand the implication. They don't understand the fact that they are selling their future. They don't understand the fact that what they are doing is that they are selling the future education of their children to a few people who are pocketing the funds of the state. They don't seem to appreciate the fact that the rules are not fixed because you allow these people to maneuver the system by buying votes. So there's a need for that. In the past, when I was growing up as a child, the National Electoral Agency was a very veritable tool for dissemination information to the people. They will use jingles, they will use billboard and all that. Nobody is doing that anymore. So to answer your question in terms of what is being done, quite frankly, I don't think anything is really being done. The issues still remains the same. There's high illiteracy amongst the people. In many of the villages and areas where people are going to cast their votes in Edo State and other parts of the country, many people can be bought by salt. Sometimes they bring salt and share to people. And then, of course, with the rice politics that has now permeated the political atmosphere of Nigeria since the APC-led administration. So you have all of that. So these are some of the challenges that have been faced in trying to deal with the issue of vote buying. Until we actually go back to the drawing board in terms of addressing the legal framework, ensuring that there's enforcement, ensuring that people really know why they should vote properly. Because a lot of people don't know that. And so, until these issues are resolved, you might not be able to surmount the menace of vote buying, which has, quite frankly, interfered with the integrity of the electoral process in Nigeria, and of course, in Edo State. Because if you look at the 2019 election in Edo State, it was one of the highest incidents of vote buying that happened. The two major political parties were offering. So this one will offer 5,000, the other will offer 10,000, and people were, jumping at it, and then allowing them to win elections. And let me also make the point that vote buying is not just about giving the electorate votes, the money in exchange for votes. If votes have been casted and somebody is induced to refuse to count it properly, yes, that's fraud, but at the end of the day, it's also vote buying, because the fraudulent vote you have declared for somebody else that doesn't exist, or the one you have taken from another person, you have bought it in a way through corruption and all of that. So, it's a very difficult system. The political class has to come to terms with this and fix it. The people can exercise their franchise. We saw it in 2023. The Nigerian people came out en masse to vote. In fact, you can even see that in some cases, they will stay there and make sure that the votes were counted. But at the end of the day, with the miracles that happened with the transmission of the results and the final collation, many people were disappointed at the final outcome. So really, the people themselves, particularly the enlightened ones, have done enough in terms of going out to vote. But unfortunately, the political class, who are beneficiaries of fraud, of fraudulent electoral process, are not allowing the enforcement of the laws. Even in a few instances where the laws are enforced, they are enforced against the opposition.
All right. Elvis, we have to go on a short break now. When we return, this conversation continues. Please stay with us. Well, if you are just tuned in, we're still having the conversation around Edo elections and the perspective on vote buying, electoral integrity, with a senior legal practitioner, Elvis Asier, who's joined us this evening via Zoom. And if you're just tuned in, we're still having, oh, I said that already. So please let's hear what you have to say. Remember to join the conversation by sending us an SMS via WhatsApp to 081 80384663. I take that again, 081 80384663. Our phone lines are open, and you can also call us via the number 07025007749 or 07014242420. That's the phone line to actually call. Now, just before that time now, Norma is also still with us, and I'm sure that she had, a question to ask. Elvis, I hope you're still with us.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Elvis, for your insight so far. So from what I hear you say, it almost feels like what between the devil and the deep blue sea. We have on the one hand, people being their votes being bought. We have also people who are taking the time to step out and go and vote, only for their votes to either not be counted well or to be confiscated, ballot boxes stolen. And then the place of law enforcement, we have policies that are not implemented, and then we have law enforcement, like the DIG's comment where he says we can only do what we can do. So it almost feels like a pretty helpless situation in Nigeria. And so my question I would want to ask, how can we begin to salvage this situation? What's the way forward concerning electoral integrity in Nigeria? What can we begin to implement as a people, as a government, as individuals, and how do we compare what other economies are doing in other countries, what they're doing and is working well? How can we begin to implement some of these things in our own economy?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. I think the first point is on the side of the people. The people must rise up to force the political class to do the right thing. But for them to be able to do that, they need to be educated. You and I are educated, we understand, we cannot be swayed by 5,000 or 10,000. But the majority of people in the rural communities who have no access to resources will be very happy to collect that money. So the people must be educated. There must be, a massive rollout of sensitization of the people. And I think the civil society organizations, individuals, everybody must try to do that. So once the people are, enlightened enough to see the dangers and the disadvantage of allowing, people to be governors, to be president, to be senators simply because of 5,000 or 10,000, that eventually will not begin to put the political class in check. Because, like I said earlier, the political class that has the legal, that are supposed to, fix the legal system in terms of enforcement and all that, they're not doing it because they are beneficiaries of the system at the moment. So the people must be enlightened to understand the effect of what they are doing, and then, over time, we'll be able to force the blue class to do the right thing. Another thing we need to do is, we have to try to ensure transparency in the electoral process. One of the ways to do that is through technology, and that was why the 2022 Electoral Act tried to introduce, instant transmission of electoral results from polling units to collation centers. But unfortunately, INEC scuttled that process. Again, the political class intervened, and then they scuttled the process. You need to have a system that is transparent. A lot of people take these monies not necessarily because they don't understand the issues, but they don't see a way out of it. They just feel that the politicians will always get their way. And so when you have a transparent electoral system that guarantees that your vote will be counted, then the people will begin to reject, these peanuts that politicians are offering. So transparency is important, and this is where the courts and the judiciary also comes in. In the last election, with the kind of magic that was done by INEC in terms of, they published regulations saying that this election was going to be done through electronic transmission of results and all of that. But they didn't do that eventually, and then there was no explanation, and the courts took side with them. That was very, very wrong. The court had an opportunity to ensure there was transparency in the system, and by taking side with INEC to say that INEC can choose to abandon electoral transmission of results. The court seems to be taking side with the politicians, and so we need to look at that. Another thing we need to also do is that we need to make sure that there's proper there's a system of enforcing our electoral laws outside of the conventional legal system. Now, a lot of people have called for the creation of special offenses tribunal or special offenses courts, electoral courts. to look at this issue, because the courts are overwhelmed on a daily basis, from our interaction and interface with our courts. It's practically, a place where you're expecting to get justice. Because, I mean, if I'm going to wait 5, 6, 10 years to get justice, I mean, what justice are you talking about? So we need to look at that. And then, the most important thing in terms of poverty, illiteracy, and all that, that's bills on government. We need to make sure that, we reduce poverty. But unfortunately, in the last few months, I think more people have been pushed into poverty by the policies of the current administration. And that is a danger, because those who are struggling to feed right now probably will not mind collecting peanuts, for elections. And so we need. So the problem is huge, like you said, but it can be fixed. But one at a time. I think the civil societies are not doing enough to educate our people. They are not doing enough to ensure that the system.
All right, so I think that we have just been disconnected. Hopefully, we have Elvis join the conversation in no time. But, back to you ladies in the studio, and of course, Norma, who's joined us via Zoom this evening. Do we think the elections is almost here? And usually, the elections that will lead. So there's always that thing they say that I'm sorry, it's just that adage in Calabar. So it means that you go take sleep, know how death the day. How you take sleep now, so death go day. So looking at 2023, it's already looking like it's a hopeless situation, because the election would be a reflection of you use that to gauge what to anticipate in the next year, and maybe the next election that we're going to have in another state. So I think that it's really unfortunate. But this is the point where I begin to ask: should it be? Yes, I understand that there should be the role of the civil society. I understand that there should be some level of education, but what about that consciousness, that awareness, that self, that conscious within you,
as a person,
that can tell you
don't do this,
and don't do that. And if you begin to look at what is happening immediately, you look at the actions that have led us to where we are as a country, then you think that, then we can't toe this way. So that self-awareness and self-consciousness.
So that's where I made a statement now that it wasn't about selling of votes alone. Now, even if they go, you heard him say that even if these people vote, they have a way of doing magic. That's why INEC did what they did. If they bought so much votes... But I
think that's a different conversation.
But that's what I'm trying to say. So you're saying those people, don't they use their conscience? You're saying, can't they think? They are thinking and they're saying, I'd rather take this money than go vote, and my vote will still count.
But I don't really want to agree with you.
That's why INEC did what they did, because if they bought all the votes, INEC didn't have to change anything.
But let's quickly hear what Norma's got to say. Norma, are you here? Okay. I think differently because I've always thought that I know a lot of Nigerians who wake up to say, I remember in 2015, I monitored the elections very well. I'm talking about being in the creeks, like the villages, like being in the village. I'm not talking about jumping in the city and seeing what's going on. Real time in the axis of where you have the Bakassi and, the Cameroon. Then I'm sure that Nigeria was still, the Bakassi had already been separated from Nigeria. So Bakassi was a different entity entirely. So, but within the, that border of Bakassi and Cameroon, that community. And then I could see, but then again, we're always very quick to say that people, the trust deficit, that the Nigerian people or the population have actually lost trust in the entire system. And I think that, that's also a deliberate effort to keep the people away, because this is a game of numbers. If people understood that the powers lied within them, that they had the powers, to make the decision, then it wouldn't. See, when you make up your mind and say, I have to take what I have. No, wait, I'm getting there. When you believe that you have to take the money, no, just take what you have now, because it's not going to count. See, it's because these guys are going to do what they're going to do.
You see, the way you're speaking now.
No, wait, what I'm saying is because you don't understand that it's in the power of the numbers, because the more numbers you have, the more people turn out. It's very difficult to truncate the process.
Just the way you didn't, same way you didn't agree with me, I still would not agree with you. You know why? I saw it happen the last time. People came out in numbers, do you understand, to do this same thing, because they said, they were preaching your vote count, and people came out in numbers, and yet they did the same thing. I know people who came out to vote and it discouraged them and said, oh, they were not going to come back again, because really, what's the point?
All right, so don't forget, if you're still watching us right here, if you're just tuned in, we're having this conversation around the Edo elections. It's just barely 2 weeks before that elections, and there's been widespread, reports of vote buying. We can already see that, and vote buying is not a very new practice in our polity. It seemed to have actually increased from the last elections when you juxtapose that with the previous elections that we have. So we would like to hear your thoughts as regards this conversation that we're having. So don't forget that you can join the conversation by sending us an SMS or sending us a WhatsApp message, and that is via 081-8038-4663. Do send us an SMS or send us a WhatsApp message to the number 081-8038-4663, or our phone lines are also open. We're open taking calls right now. Let's hear you say what's on your mind about this conversation now. 070-2500-7749, or you can also call 070-142-42 and 420. I hope I'm not fast, and I hope I'm not making a mess of the numbers, but I'd like to go through the phone lines to call again. 070-2500-77 and 49, or you can also call 070-142-42 and 420. Those are the numbers to call this evening. We'd like to hear from you. Go ahead and share your thoughts. But, I would always say that the problem and the solution lies within us. We're the problem and we have the solution.
Yes.
And that's very simple.
Yes, because the government is part of us too.
So you need to understand that we are in the majority and these people are in the minority.
I agree with you. But then they also know what to do because they also affect the majority.
So now, let's come back to the elections that's going to really happen, the Edo State election. Looking at it, do you think that anything can be done to salvage the situation?
I was even going to ask the guy, I said, so we're here today, the election is in 2 weeks. What's going to, from what he said nothing.
So I think that we have Elvis back. Elvis, thank you so much. We do apologize for the truncation of our conversation that's on the network, but thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you for having me. I understand that there was network issues.
Yes, please. So straight up to it, so we're asking now, do you think with these elections that should happen on the 21st, all things being equal, of September in Edo State, if I'm not mistaken, do you think that there's anything to salvage, the integrity of the elections? All right, so I'm being told. Okay, Loma is here. All right. Okay, so we have Loma, who's a caller. Loma, thank you so much for calling. Go ahead. We can hear you. Loma, can you hear us?
Hello?
Go ahead, Loma. We can hear you. Good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Hello?
Yes, Loma, good evening.
Hearing me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Hello?
Oh, yes. We can hear you. If you can hear us, please go ahead.
I'm not hearing.
All right, then. Do well to turn down the volume of your device when you're calling so we can have a smooth conversation, and that's fine. Elvis.
Well, I was just saying that, unfortunately, I cannot say, as I sit here, that we've done anything material that is material enough to affect or to prevent vote buying and, in the election that's coming up in Edo State, because we just like you and other people in the system, we have been following up with what's happening in Edo State. It is clear that the politicians still want to continue to remain as politicians. We have seen even the campaigns. You can see that the major political parties are actually not doing. They are doing jamborees and events and all that. They're actually not talking to the issues in terms of how they tend to fix all the myriads of issues that Edo State is faced with. Today, as we speak, Edo is rated as the as rated last in the ease of doing business index in the country, and that tells you a lot about what is happening there. And so we're not speaking to the issues. Politicians are not investing money on educating our people on the dangers of vote buying. And I don't even, if you listen to INEC and security agencies, it is clear that they too do not seem to have what it takes, to prevent vote buying in elections. And so I'm not very confident to say that, we are going to prevent vote buying in this election. I hope it happens, but,
all right,
the kind of information, yeah.
All right, Elvis, just a little bit with our thoughts. We come back to you as would like to take this call down. Loma, thank you so much once again for joining us. Go ahead, we can hear you.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, Loma. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. I want to let us know one thing. But vote buying or no vote buying does not change politicians. Again, let me just tell you. How many times have we come out in full without collecting pardon from anybody? At the end of the day, they disappointed us. How many times have we come out to vote our mind, to vote for the candidate of our choice? When they get there, it looks as if they are hypnotized and they don't know what to do again. Look at what is happening now. Some people voted in Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as our president. People told and voted for him. They did not do vote buying. At the end of the day, are they not suffering what we are suffering? So what we are saying is that we need deliverance. The politicians of today need powerful deliverance from powerful men of God, not fake men of God, both in Imam, in the Muslim world, and in the Christian world. They need deliverance because with what we are saying today, they will give you, keep a word of promise to your ear and break it to your home. This is exactly what is happening. So when we are talking about vote buying, if you buy vote or you did not buy vote, when they get in there, everything around them will change. They will become a different human being. I pray God will deliver our politicians in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.
Okay. So we've actually had that, even though I think differently. I still think that the power actually lies within us. It's not a hopeless situation. It's not rocket science. It's not something it's not a course. Because we have actually made it to look like a course, and we're indulging. And I also remember Elvis saying that vote buying, maybe it's not him, but I'm sure that I heard that somewhere, that the vote buying can actually take different, dimension. So it might literally not be you, somebody giving you money and all of that. There could be different ways where people are actually induced to make a different choice, influence their decision and their choice, their original choice or their original intent. And those who are also aiding the buying and all of that. You have the sellers, you have the buyers, you have those who are actually, truncating the integrity of the election. Which brings me back to my next question. I'm sure you have a question to
that's
ask.
fine.
Elvis, I'd like to ask you, but apart from the issue of vote buying and this election, do you see other factors that could threaten the integrity of the Edo State elections? When we talk about integrity, we're looking at the free, fair elections.
I think a major issue that is worrisome in terms of the Edo State governorship election that's coming up is the issue of the possibility of violence, and security issues. We have seen the fight between the APC and PDP in the build-up to this election. Even the peace accord that was to be signed, the PDP refused to sign it. We have seen the governor expressly saying that the election was going to be a do-or-die affair. We have seen him also saying that the country will burn if his party doesn't have his way. These are utterances that shouldn't come from a governor in an election, because look at it. As a governor, you are the governor of those states, and you are governor of both the PDP, APC, Labour, and all the other political parties. So your utterances shouldn't be too partisan in this manner. Yes, you can support your candidate and all of that, But in terms of ensuring that there's peace and security in Edo State, the authorities must be able to portray that and protect that. And so these are some of the issues, challenges I have. In the local elections that happened in Edo State before now, we saw the way the incumbent, party, mismanaged the process and pretty much chased every other person out of the race. In the build of the election, we saw the billboards of the Labour Party candidate, Mr. Akpata, being destroyed, and a major spokesperson of the PDP campaign was caught on video to be saying that why should he have his billboards in popular areas like Ring Road? So these are some of the challenges and issues that I worry about, in terms of the integrity of the electoral process that's coming up. And then on the part of the PDP, they also accused the APC of an attempt, to use their federal might, to truncate the process. They point to the fact that
Elvis, I'm sorry, we have to
cousin.
go now. We have to cut you because we're out of time. But I'm sure that before that elections, we would definitely have, a follow-up, a build-up as we monitor, the situation of things in Edo State. Thank you so much for making our time to be with us tonight. We do really appreciate you. Thank you so much,
Thank
Elvis.
you for having me.
All right, then, and that's so much that we can take. Franca, do you have any thoughts before we leave?
Well, I just pray everything works out, but I don't have any belief in
I know
anything.
you have taken the part of, Bello,
As I say, I'm not why I
what's his
take
name again? The governor of Bauchi State. Well, that's it. Before we go, do ensure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. You can also interact with us further, drop a comment, and most importantly, follow us on all our social media platforms for engagement. And remember to like, share, comment, and invite your friends and family to watch and follow us. Don't, watch alone. Subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. And if you miss our quote for today, here's what it is. Voting is a right best exercised by people who have taken time to learn about the issues, and that's by Tony Snow. And I think that's what you and I have been talking about. Do the people really understand, what voting is about, or do they just go out to vote? Thank you. My name is Messi Ebopo. Let's do this again tomorrow.